Welcome Internet. Today we're going to be talking about the evolution of the notion of perversion throughout the last 100 years. What you have to understand with the notion of perversion is that it started a very long time ago. And to the extent of my knowledge, and remember I'm not an anthropologist nor an historian, but it seems to me that all societies have always had taboos on what is acceptable sexuality and unacceptable sexuality. And this notion of sexuality is at the core of what is happening with perversion, because there were sins that were normal and natural, and sins that were abnormal. For a long time, that abnormality was absolutely every sin except heterosexual relationships. End of story. It was defined like that. You can even find relics of it in, for example, the language of psychoanalysis, in which Laplanche and Pontalis define it as everything that isn't basically heterosexual coitus. With this idea, interestingly enough, that sexuality is there for reproduction, which is an idea that also basically comes from the millennia of basically Christianity, and this idea that sexuality has a reproductive function virtually exclusively, and misusing it in any other way is sinful. So there's already a correlation between perversion and sin. And this is where it becomes interesting, is that in the last 100 and 150 years, psychiatry has really basically blown up as a field. And it has included notions of perversion. And when I took it out, perversion was already considered unacceptable. And they started to consider it not as, let's say, a sin, but as an illness, of something that requires some form of treatment. And this is where the crux comes, is that perversion used to be purely sexual. So, as I said, everything that wasn't heterosexual relationships. And that notion has gone very deep, meaning, for example, everything that touches or even hinted at homosexuality was a perversion. And this is where it becomes very interesting, is that from virtually 100 years ago, it was not still unified. A lot of people were kind of divided. For example, a good example of this is Sigmund Freud. So you might think that he was completely against homosexuality and thought that it was a perversion, but it was quite the opposite. He felt that homosexuals were not inherently perverts. There was nothing necessarily perverted about them. That it was a form of sexuality that was normal. As for Freud, everyone was potentially bisexual, and that you go for one way or another or both, and that's fine. For him it was fine. It's later people like, for example, Ferenczi, that tried to treat homosexuality, or Rando in the US, that really made it a form of disorder. And it was considered a perversion up until like the 80s. So homosexuality aside, it's not just homosexuality, everything was lumped into that. Everything from BDSM and zoophilia, necrophilia, and so on and so forth. So it's really the whole plethora of sins. And what you have to understand is that to an extent there is a dimension of control. It was a control over people's behaviors. And also basically with the whole weight of systemic religion and of basically codes that were forced into people again and again. But what's very interesting with this notion is that it didn't stop there. What happens is that it changed slowly but surely. So when Freud said that it's not perversion, what happened is that basically there were two types of analysts that then split off. People that didn't feel that was really that much of an issue, and people that still felt it was perversion but you couldn't treat it. So sins were not that easy, right? So there was basically mainly two groups, and people fell in one or the other. And you might be surprised to know that that aspect of Freud, for example, was not in the US taken up. Like, they didn't defend Freud's position. But in other countries, like, for example, I think England, they were more open to that. So very interesting, because it varies from country to country, and that's what I'm trying to say. So what happened is that when people with LGBT orientation started fighting for their rights, there was a sort of displacement of this notion of perversion, and slowly but surely homosexuality was lifted into normality and no longer, how can I say, divided up or pushed down into this aspect of perversion. So perversion changed, or this notion of perversion. So it became much less about what is being done, and it slowly shifted to something very different. It was not just what happened sexually, it was what happened morally. And I think it's very interesting to see that basically from the 70s and 80s and onwards, they, at least in France, started to have other ideas that started to spring with perversion, namely that of moral perversion, or what Hakami called narcissistic perversion, i.e. things that impacted the personality, not necessarily it being sexual. So there was a form of change and evolution. We went from sexuality to personality, and for certain authors, there is a continuum, right? It's a bit like a spectrum. Some individuals are perverted, but that basically bleeds into their personality, whereas for others it's more of a clean cut. And so it's there where it became very interesting. And what happened with sexual perversions? So very interestingly enough, sexual perversions also evolved. It's no longer about just an action. It was about basically the relationship and the intent. That, for example, perversion started becoming more of this idea of domination, of imposing one's will upon another, of one individual trying to break and hurt and destroy someone else. Like, for example, in the case of pedophilia, it's an adult that destroys a child. It's not a consensual relationship, quite the opposite. And this is where it becomes interesting, is because right now, sexual perversion is this idea that it's the destruction of someone or something else. I say something because sometimes perversion is about objects, like literal physical tools, or sometimes it's about animals, which I've talked about in another video about zoophilia, but this fundamental idea is that something is hurt in perversion, that the individual is hurting someone else, is destroying someone else, without the consent. So this is very interesting because we can already see that it's shifting. It seems like BDSM aren't inherently necessarily perversions, but something of basically that's starting to reach the point of normality. So very interesting. And so for some authors now, there's a clear divide between a moral form of perversion, which is a personality that's organized in the fact of hurting others, of twisting others, of, how can I say, parading a form of morality, and also by hurting other people, of being twisted. And we can see that there's already a callback to pervertir, which is twist, right? So people that twist what should be normal, a form of, how can I say, of trying to bend social rules, not outright break them, but bend them, to make them they themselves as if they were perfect, yet they have a hidden side, a side where they hurt others and destroy others, and that there's a split between the two sides of them, of their personalities. Not in the fact these two personalities, but they have the same personality, but it's just two sides, right? Right. Anyway, very interestingly enough, this shift created a new paradigm in which there is a massive separation between our conception of perversion as something that's linked with a personality and something linked with sexuality. Now, what really becomes interesting is that, as you know, perversion is somewhat of an old-fashioned word, right? That isn't any longer used in the DSM. Right now, they talk about paraphilia, but don't get mistaken, it's the same kind of idea. It's the idea that at the core, something is wrong. And it's to do with this idea that there are things that are acceptable and things that are not acceptable. And I do personally think that the definition that we have right now of sexuality as something consensual, as something that two adult people, humans, consent to one another, is not pervert. The perversion lies in twisting the consent of someone else, or basically using someone else that can't consent or is unable to give declare consent. I think that that's a good definition, one that fundamentally prevents any moral judgment, because this is where things become complicated. It's because of the whole history of perversion. There is a moral component to it, in which people fundamentally, it's a judgment. To say that someone is a pervert, at least in French, it's a very severe form of judgment upon someone else. It's not something that's done lightly, right? So this is very important. And fundamentally, what I find to be of high interest is that all of this evolution is only logical. It's when, for example, people started to push back, to fight on their rights, that clinicians started to re-evaluate the situation and started to question what is normal and what is pathological. And with this question of perversion, it was a very long process because it wasn't very clear, especially because people who have, let's say, alternative sexualities can also have other disorders, right? So it's not as if, for example, there was no comorbidities between, for example, homosexuality, borderline personality disorder, and so on and so forth. But like there is for heterosexuals. But the problem is, as clinicians, we have a bias. We meet people who are suffering. And for a long period of time, there was this insinuation that if you were like that, then of course you're going to be more susceptible to have a form of sexuality that basically did not fit, and therefore you were suffering of it. This is also why it was very complicated to move it out from the DSM when it was first moved out. I think it was for, from DSM-3 ongoing that they moved it out. It was because the people that were treating homosexuals were like, yes, but they get they get reimbursed for that, and that not seeing us will deteriorate their health, which is a bizarre question because people can still come and talk about their symptoms even if not paid back. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that this long and slow process is a real shift, and one that is, I think, for the better, because issue is with all of this is, and what we have to remember is that those who were branded perverts were cast out of society. They were rejected, mocked, humiliated, and sometimes even killed for their differences. And this, I think that this evolution of the concept of perversion to be more restrictive is a good thing, because we can now make a difference between fundamental hurtful actions which are still characteristic of perversion and basic consenting people. And of course here you might say, yes, but you haven't talked about the theories behind it. It is very true. It's because there's a vast notion of theories that basically are characteristic of the evolution of perversion. From Freud thinking it was a fetish, that the men that were perverts were basically substituting their fetish for what they felt was the denial of castration. From, let's say, more modern perspectives, which is fundamentally the will to control, abuse, and make the object suffer, like basically the individual has suffered. So it would necessitate an immense time, which is beyond the scope of this video. But all that to say that this notion has changed. And when we speak about perversion nowadays, we're not speaking broadly about homosexuality, about bisexuality. We're no longer talking about that. We're talking about the twistedness, both in personality, morals, and relationships with other individuals. Of course, here I'm basically going for an overview. If you're more interested in the topic, I would recommend Gérard Bonnet's book, Perversion sexuelle, in French, which is a very good summing up of what is sexual perversion and its gradual evolutions, which is basically the framework I'm using for this video. Even though I'm not verbatim quoting him, there might be things he would disagree with in this video, but you get the idea. It's like a basis that I'm using. Anyway, I hope you found this video interesting. As usual, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments, and I'll send you the next one. Bye!